That was me falling off the stage at Keller High School a while back. I was 5'8". When I landed, I was 5'7". But today, welcome to my show. We're going to have a very special talk about someone really extraordinary, Dale Hansen, who I consider to be one of the greatest broadcasters in American history. And we're going to talk about him with my guest, Tommy Cummings, who runs an organization for journalists and public relations people, which we'll talk about. And Dale is the guest at the next meeting on February 10th. So, Tommy, what's the name of your group? And welcome.
Thank you. Roundtable at Square Tables.
Oh wow, I can't remember that. And what does that mean?
Well, it's a get together of like current and former journalists and publicists and marketing people and podcasters and broadcasters and actors and filmmakers, authors, and they come together at this thing that we have, and we have a special guest. You were there. Mm-hmm. You've been to one, and the one on February 10th will be Dale Hansen, and Dale is probably one of our premier guests, and we can't think of anyone better to have to kick off our third year as Dale. And Dale is. I'm glad that he decided to do this, and we think we'll have a good show.
Tommy's run this organization for now his third year, you're saying, and he used to be my editor, and I worked for you for the Alliance Regional Newspapers. You were fun to write for, and you retired.
Well, not really
Dallas
retired.
Morning News.
Well, I took a buyout.
Yeah, you took a buyout from the Dallas Morning News, where I still work, and I miss you there. You know, we worked together at the Star Telegram, and now you've started this journalism organization, which I think is really cool because there really aren't enough. There aren't enough journalists and there aren't enough organizations for them. But I wanted to talk to you today about Dale, because if Dale's coming in February 10th, I have a lot of interesting thoughts about him, and I know you do too. Number 9, please. You had lunch with him, I guess, in preparation, and there's your wife, your lovely wife, Bridget, on the left, and there you are, and there's Dale, and that's Bob
Kowalski. He's my moderator. I couldn't be anywhere without him.
And you guys were planning the February 10th meeting, right? So let's talk about Dale. Number 2, please. Dale look how young he looks there. 1983, Dale became the WFAA sports anchor, a job he held until 2 years ago. And I consider him to be one of the most outstanding broadcasters ever. He controlled that show with his presence and his dominance. And when they would do Dale Hansen Unplugged, which was his editorials, they'd promote it, people would watch it. And then, of course, he became nationally famous because he started talking about social issues. I guess his most famous one, it got him on the Ellen DeGeneres show, was about Michael Sam, whether a gay man can play NFL football or not. So tell me why you invited Dale to come, and if you agree with what I'm saying about him.
Well, everything you've said. Dale is a master storyteller, and I don't know, that comes naturally because he's done a lot of things in his life. I mean, he's he's covered the Cowboys, and I don't know if you could think of a better long-running soap opera than the Cowboys. So there's something always to talk about, and his relationship with Jerry Jones, with Jimmy Johnson, and Barry Switzer, and all the other people in that orbit are just, it's amazing to listen to him and tell all the inside stories, the bar stories, the off the record stories. We had about a 2-hour lunch with him, and we couldn't get enough. It was just, it was one right after the other. So I hope after this one we have with him on February 10th, he comes back and, tells part 2, part 3, part 4, and other parts to his long-running, personality.
Didn't Jerry Jones fire him as a play-by-play guy on the radio?
I don't know the specifics of that one, but I wouldn't be surprised because, Dale is beholden to no one, really, not even his own bosses at WFAA. From what he's told us, that, he kind of ran things his own way, and just pretty much was the tail that wagged the dog there.
Yeah, I don't think he really listened to authority when they told him not to do something, I think he probably went ahead and did it anyway.
Well, that's kind of opposite of where he came from. He came from Nebraska, and his father wanted him to run the business in Nebraska, but he wanted to do other things. He did kind of a George Bailey kind of adventure and wanted to go out. And he finally was able to go out in other markets, and he failed at some of these other markets. But when he came to Dallas, he found probably his, where he should have been, where his natural surroundings should be. This is a city full of people who are looking for that drama. I mean, they made Dallas an international sensation on TV, and so Dale is master at bringing personalities to life, even bigger than what they are.
Dale seemed to come out of the screen. He was like in your living room. There was only one other broadcaster that I saw had that talent. It was a guy named Jim O'Brien in Philadelphia who leaned into the camera, and it literally felt like he was with you. But Dale had a presence on TV that you're born with it. You can't fabricate it. And there's nobody in this market or any other market I've ever lived in that had his kind of robust ability to come into your living room. And number one, please. Of course, this is how he looked when he retired. He got better looking as he got older. And he lives in Waxahachie.
Yes.
And he did the sports from Waxahachie, which is like, they couldn't get him to come into the office, Whoever was going to follow him was going to have a hard time. And Joe Trahan is excellent. Mm-hmm. But they have very different styles.
Yes. Dale is, he has the talent of bringing you into a story. You feel like you're with him. And, they don't teach that in journalism about how to bring the audience into an immersive experience. But Dale has done that, and he's excelled at it. And, you tuned into him to find out where he's having his adventures and where can he take us, that kind of thing. So that's what I think the value of Dale is. And, I'll always listen to him.
He was very community oriented. He would show up at any kind of a Rotary or a Chamber of Commerce. First time I heard him speak at a Chamber of Commerce, he told the story about how he had this falling out with his daughter, but he loved her and he just never talked to her. And when it was over, it was very emotional. He started crying while he was talking about it. And so when it was over, I went and called his daughter, and I told her, this is what your dad said about you at a speech an hour ago. And she said, I wish he would tell me, And then about 3 or 4 years later, he gave another speech at another group that I was at. And he told this story about his daughter again. Same story. He cried at the end. And I called her again. And I said, it's me again. And guess what time he said this time? And she said, I wish he would have told me that. So I figured that was enough for me interfering in their family relationships. But he was basically suckering me into the same story every time because it was so good,
Yeah, and Dale there's been other moments where Dale has, shed tears on camera. I don't know if you ever saw the one about the honor, a group was honoring a friend of his that had perished in Vietnam, and that really choked him up. And so he was on TV and he had a hard time finishing the presentation. And, what I like about Dale too is that the community embraces him no matter what. I went to a high school football game in Waxahachie one time and rode the elevator up. Me and Dale walked to the press box, and we were stepping on cockroaches throughout the bottom of the stadium. We were laughing about how it made it sound when we were going to the press box. And once we got in the press box, there was a crowd of fans, boosters for Waxahachie High School, and they just all adored him as we rode that elevator up. And when we were in Waxahachie, he's got this boisterous voice that you could have heard all over the restaurant. I had to go to the restroom once, and I didn't miss a word because I could hear him from the restroom. And people were coming by, and he expressed aloud some opinions that probably don't play well in Waxahachie, but they still adored him. They thought he was, he's their own.
one time he was the MC at a charity, and I was the assistant MC, and I was supposed to help him, and he wasn't letting me talk. I was standing behind him at the lectern, and he was talking, and finally, after like 10 minutes, I decided to come up to the microphone and say something, and he went like this. He went, which the place went nuts, and it was probably the most embarrassing moment of my life, you know. And I remember writing a story about it in the newspaper, you know. He also historically has a place because he was the one responsible for SMU losing its ability to play football, right?
Right.
They were blackballed for several years because of stories that he broke.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right?
You did. If you want to know a little bit more about that, or anybody out there wants to know more about that, Thad Matula, who lives in Lake Highlands, and he was one of our guests on the Roundtable. He produced the 30 for 30 episode that was called Pony Excess. And Dale was featured throughout there, and Dale explained how, you know, through his reporting and morning news reporting and some other reporting that they were able to crack that wide open. And that's part of one of his stories that I really want him to tell at the Roundtable, is how that all came about.
Yeah. So when I moved to Keller, I lived about a quarter mile from his house. But he didn't live there anymore. His house was abandoned. But there was this grotto, swimming pool made out of stone. And that was the famous grotto where the cowboys would come to the parties at his house, and they would all drink and play in his grotto. And it was still there. So when I had company come in, I would say, hey, you want to see where Dale Hansen used to live? And there was a windmill up there, and there was rocks, and there was the grotto. And we'd hang out and talk about Dale and everything. And number 3, please. This is a picture of Dale sitting at the grotto with his friend, a man you might know named Troy Aikman. And that was at one of those famous cowboy parties. And so this area, this whole acreage was abandoned for years and years. And then they decided that the city of Keller wanted to build a park on it, what they call a special needs park for special needs kids for $2 million. So they built the park, and I realized that nobody there knew that Dale Hansen, that was his property. There was no plaque or anything. So I asked the city of Keller if they would, if they could, number 7, please. If Dale could come and you know, be there during the ribbon cutting. And we walked around, and he was remembering all the different things. And there, let me show you 5. There's the ribbon cutting. There he is with his wife, who he would call, on the right, he'd call her the lovely Mrs. Hansen. And those are all the Keller City Council people and whatnot. And I think he was really touched by it. Let me show you, let's see, number 4. So he walked the grounds, and he saw where he used to live, and he regretted selling the house too. He told the story about how a developer promised him seclusion from the development next door, and then the developer got what he wanted, and Dale came to see him, and Dale said, "Okay, I'm ready for you to keep your promise." And the guy said, "What promise? Do you have anything in writing from me?" And Dale said, "I learned my lesson, man. No one's ever going to cheat me again, you know." But that was really cool to bring Dale back and see him get emotional, seeing his homestead become a place for kids to go and have fun. So I really like that.
Yeah, he has some special people in his life, and Troy Aikman is among them. I saw Dale a few months ago at the DFW Press and Media Club meeting. And we had talked about Troy. I had worked with Troy. I knew Troy. I'd worked with Troy's mother at the Henrietta Freelance. And I told a Tulsa World reporter that, hey, there's this kid in Henrietta, Oklahoma that can run the wishbone. You think OU would be interested? And then he just kind of wrote it off like some kid from Henrietta could run a wishbone at OU. And so, okay. So later on, the kid became an all-stater, and OU signed him, and he ran the wishbone at OU before breaking his leg and going on to UCLA. And so Dale was really interested in that story, and I told him about, how over the years Troy and I have made connections, and and I got, speaking of Oklahoma and Oklahoma football, there was that infamous dust up between him and Barry Switzer on camera,
Yeah.
where he punched him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And so I told Dale, I said, I'm going to punch you in the right shoulder because that's where Barry didn't get to you, and I'm doing this on behalf of Barry. And he got a kick out of that.
Yeah, that was a big deal when Barry talked to him and I just punched him. It was like that. That was a really big deal. Let's go to number 8. Well, you couldn't get a better MC at a banquet or a better roaster than that man because he was so quick. Mm-hmm. He had Johnny Carson style quickness and wit. And so I remember I went to see a roast that he did right after September 11th. And it was the first time we all felt good because he made us laugh and everything. And, he's really a superhuman. Let's look at number 11. This is your logo for your group that he's going to be appearing at. And it says on the bottom that it's presented by the Society of Professional Journalists, assisted by. And as a member of the Society of Professional Journalists Fort Worth chapter, I want to thank you because you've become an officer in the group, vice president, I think, for membership, right? Programming, yeah. And you brought new life into an older organization, and it's much appreciated. So,
well, thank you for saying that.
I look forward to February 10th and coming to see Dale. What else do you have planned for your group in the future that you can talk about?
Well, we're growing. We're looking at, it's a quarterly get-together. Mm-hmm. So we meet in this middle month of each quarter, and typically on a Tuesday, whatever fits the guest speakers' schedule. And we've had some great guest speakers, and just from word of mouth, including you, and
thanks.
Word of mouth helps us get bigger and better. And I don't know how much bigger we can get before we outgrow the place, and I don't know if I want to. But I want to emphasize that I want certain people to be there, so I'll personally invite them, and that means if we're too crowded, that's okay because we'll learn from our mistakes, and we've got I got a long list of people that I can call on to be speakers, and a lot of them have indicated that they would like to do that. So
yeah, I spoke there last month and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun group, very diverse, young and old. And why did you start the group?
Well, I started it because on Facebook they have morning news and Star Telegram groups that just start complaining and griping and mm-hmm. not really coming up with solutions, but throwing out just opinions on, how they think the industry should be run. And I didn't want to be, it seemed like there was a lot of good institutional knowledge just being thrown around and nothing coming of it. So I wanted to get people in more of a serendipitous, environment where they could learn from each other and have young journalists learn from these older journalists. And part of the joy of holding this thing is I'll sit back and I'll let Bob moderate, and I'll watch the younger ones as they become close, really intrigued by the older speakers and the stories and what they can tell. And, we had Tonnell Hobbs, who worked with us at the Morning News, mm-hmm. and was at the Wall Street Journal and at the New York Times. Mm-hmm. And she kept she kept everybody at rapt attention. And I looked around at the younger ones, and they were eating it up. And that's what I want. And I also want to cast a wider net on, and that's why I don't say it's a meeting of journalists, it's a meeting of communicators. And so I want to have public relations people, had authors, filmmakers, and those types of people that will kind of enrich the whole experience. And I want to take that up to the SPJ level too, and kind of widen our message, because our membership could be better, and I want to be able to, get people excited about what we do. And I want to bring a younger, more enthusiastic approach to it. And, I think that's what we're trying to do, and we're working on it.
There's a void for area press associations. And the reason there's a void is because of a scandal. You remember?
Yes.
It was 2004. And the lady who was running the Dallas Press Association, and they were giving out the Katie Awards, she was basically winning all the awards. Because she was cheating and giving the awards to whomever she wanted to. And that caused the ending of the Dallas Press Association, which has never been able to recuperate. So there is a void that you are filling, not necessarily to run a contest, but to get people together of like-minded ones who believe in communicating to the public important news and information.
Yeah, I've made outreaches to the Hispanic journalists of DFW.
A great organization.
Working with Rebecca Lopez on trying to coordinate with that, and Public Relations Society of America, PRSA. They have Dallas and Fort Worth chapters, and I'm working with my counterparts there to see if we can have some type of synergy going between us. And I know Clarence Hill from who runs the Black Journalists Association of DFW, and the Asian American Association of Journalists. And I want to get those people all involved and get, for the longest time, people start working in silos. And I don't like that. I want to be able to, have us work together. And so that's, since I'm not in, working at a newspaper or website, that gives me time to work on that.
Especially now, because with the press under attack, just in the last week, we've had a reporter from the Washington Post had her computer taken in an FBI raid. And today, Don Lemon was arrested and charged. It's a really tough time to be a reporter. So anybody who can get people together to talk about what's going on is really going to help, I think, our situation. So good for you. I have something fun here. I think when you were at the Dallas Morning News in your final years there, when I came on board, you were interviewing celebrities who were promoting products, and you were, or performances or books or whatever. And this was done, you would interview them by telephone, right?
Or in person.
Or in person. So I made a list of some of the really cool people that you've interviewed in the past couple of years before you retired. No, didn't retire, took a buyout, as you said. And I was wondering if you could give me like one or two or three or four words about what you remember like about it or dislike. Okay?
I'm long-winded, so I hope it's one or two words. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Shaquille O'Neal.
Sleepy, grumpy. I caught him on a Zoom call when he had he just woke up, and he was yelling back to his people that, hey, he's rubbing his eyes and rubbing his face. And so, but I got a good interview with him, and talked to him about, how come you weren't ever a Maverick? And he talked about, I would love to have been a Maverick and play for Mark Cuban. He said I would have loved it.
Okay, next is Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton. I had Dolly Parton, Darlin, and what else about her? Kind. Yeah, I had her and Garth Brooks on a Zoom call, and they opened the Zoom call up too early, and I was hearing them collaborate on what they were going to do at the Country Music Awards in Frisco, and so it was fun.
Bill Maher.
And Bill Maher, just honorable man who, he's got so much history.
Yeah.
He's a man of history.
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, he's accessible and my age and fun to talk to.
Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander, he doesn't like to be called George.
I bet.
And so we got into an interview, and I kept calling him George. And he said, Tommy, George is gone. You can search him on YouTube or wherever. And so he ended up starting talking about himself as George throughout in the interview anyway. So.
Oh, really? Lou Diamond Phillips.
Lou Diamond Phillips. Let's see, Roll Brother. He found out that I was Native American, and he's played actors of Native descent, and he called me Roll Brother.
Roll Brother. Zac Efron.
Zac Efron. He played. Let's see. I'll say the Claw, because Zac Efron played Kevin Von Erich in the Claw movie. Kevin Von Erich is an institution in Dallas, and Kevin gave me a real claw at the premiere of that movie over in Oak Cliff, and we saw Zac, and he was very accommodating.
Let's see, Deion Sanders.
Deion covered Primetime, Too Late to Quit, or Too Legit to Quit. Saw him in the hallway of Duncanville High School, or of all places. His Prime Elite Academy was playing basketball there, and he was complaining about nobody wanted to play him. So we had a nice talked about Barry Switzer, and talked about his video with the Too Legit to Quit video.
Barry Corbin.
Barry Corbin. Let's see. Old West.
Yep.
Cowboy. Barry has, like Dale Hansen, has a million stories. He's been in Hollywood for years. He's been in every movie made, I think. And so we talked about our dentures, and we talked about our grandkids, and so we hit it off pretty well.
That's kind of unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Ruta Lee.
Ruta Lee, feisty, funny. She called me on the way home one day, and because I was doing a story on Ruth Buzzy, and her and Ruth Buzzy are big pals, hang out at Joe T. Garcia's, and Ruta was big in Casa Manana, and so Ruta was very funny. I had a crush on her in my before I was 8 years old, I think.
Yeah, on this list, the only person I ever met was Ruth Buzzy, and she was fantastic, really nice and sweet. I was sad when she died.
Yes.
Burt Ward.
Burt Ward played Robin.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Burt was defensive, fun.
Offensive.
The thing I remember about Burt Ward was when he played Robin, and he was fighting with Kato of the Green Hornet, and I swear Kato kicked his butt in that show.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah. And so I said, how did you feel about Bruce Lee, just kicking you all around the set? And he was very defensive about it. He said, me and Bruce Lee were neighbors at our LA apartment complex, and we worked out together, and he did everything he could to cover that. But in other interviews that I've seen, people have noted that he got beat up.
John Ratzenberger.
John Ratzenberger, that was Cliff Clavin. Again, defensive. Cliffy, I'll call him that. And he got a little perturbed at me for calling him Cliffy in that interview over at Heritage Auctions when they brought the Cheers set out to auction. Uh-huh. So I mistakenly called him by his character's name, and he got a little pissed about
funny.
that.
Let's see. Gina Davis.
Gina Davis is from Plano.
Is she?
She was the voice of Megan in the Megan Robo movie. So Megan is the one word I'd describe her. And she has this iconic line. It says, I forgot what it was now, but she repeated it to me, and I got it on tape.
And the last one would be Peter Billingsley.
Peter Billingsley, Christmas Story.
What's that air rifle?
wants the air rifle, and we talked about. I did a story on him. He started his career in Fort Worth, actually. He had a little movie, an independent movie that pretty much played at here in Dallas and didn't go anywhere. Saw it on TV, but he started his career here, and we talked about he's a big our Arizona Cardinals fan. Well, we talked about all his Christmas movies. He's been like every Christmas movie, it seems. You know, he was an elf and a couple others. And so we talked about that, the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray, and we had a lot to talk about.
Well, last question. What's it like to interview a celebrity? What do you need to know to get them to open up and not be bored and care about? You know, I interviewed Joe Frazier one time, and he wanted to basically punch me in the mouth, you know. So how do you, what's the secret of doing a good celebrity interview?
Well, you have to know what they care about. And that's pretty easy with, you know, the internet and other people's, you know, what other people have written about them. And it's just, you know, you find it's like boxing, but not with Joe Frazier, but boxing and finding your opening. And, you know, with Barry Corbin, we talked about grandkids, and he's very passionate about that. And we've, you know, with like Shaquille O'Neal, we talked about, you know, it was kind of boring there for a while. What we discussed, then I started bringing up Mark Cuban, and then it livened up. And then Ruth Buzzy, it was funny because she thought my fascination with Ruta Lee was weird, and so she made fun of me with that. And so we had a good discussion, and it was, you know, you just find little openings here and there and do your homework.
Did any of them ever call you up and say that was the best story ever written about me?
No one ever does that, do they?
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. One of my favorite ones was the guy who played Uncle Rico on Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
John Grise. Yeah. And he, I said, would you do me a favor? Would you do a audio of you telling Jerry Jones that you could take Dak Prescott's place and probably throw a football over AT&T Stadium? He said, yeah. So he taped it on his phone and sent it to me, and we ran it with the story. So that was one of my favorites.
That was a great idea. Well, folks, you got to meet Tommy Cummings, who is doing a lot of cool things, has done a lot of really cool things, but isn't sitting back and resting on his laurels. I wish you luck with the group.
Well, thank you.
I'm proud of you for starting it, and I look forward to coming back and being a part of it.
Oh, you will.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed our friendship over the years, too.
Oh, yes. And thank you for getting helping my wife get the job, my wife Bridget, that job at KROD, and it was a great move for her.
I'm glad. Well, thanks a lot, folks, for tuning in to Dave Lieber Show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.